For more than 4 decades, the Libyan people have been ruled by a tyrant, Muammar Gaddafi. He has denied his people freedom, exploited their wealth, murdered opponents at home and abroad, and terrorized innocent people around the world, including Americans who were killed by Libyan agents. Last month, Gaddafi's grip of fear appeared to give way to the promise of freedom. In cities and towns across the country, Libyans took to the streets to claim their basic human rights. As one Libyan said, "For the first time, we finally have hope that our nightmare of 40 years will soon be over." Faced with this opposition, Gaddafi began attacking his people. As president, my immediate concern was the safety of our citizens, so we evacuated our embassy and all Americans who sought our assistance. When we took a series of swift steps in a matter of days to answer Gaddafi's aggression, we froze more than $33 billion of Gaddafi's regime's assets. Joining with other nations at the United Nations Security Council, we broadened our sanctions, imposed an arms embargo, and enabled Gaddafi and those around him to be held accountable for their crimes. I made it clear that Gaddafi had lost the confidence of his people and the legitimacy to lead, and I said that he needed to step down from power. In the face of the world's condemnation, Gaddafi chose to escalate his attacks, launching a military campaign against the Libyan people. Innocent people were targeted for killing. Hospitals and ambulances were attacked. Journalists were arrested, sexually assaulted, and killed. Supplies of food and fuel were choked off. Water for hundreds of thousands of people in Misrata was shut off. Cities and towns were shelled, mosques were destroyed, and apartment buildings reduced to rubble. Military jets and helicopter gunships were unleashed upon people who had no means to defend themselves against assaults from the air. Confronted by this brutal repression and a looming humanitarian crisis, I ordered warships into the Mediterranean. European allies declared their willingness to commit resources to stop the killing. The Libyan opposition and the Arab League appealed to the world to save lives in Libya. And so, at my direction, America led an effort with our allies at the United Nations Security Council to pass a historic resolution that authorized a no-fly zone to stop the regime's attacks from the air and further authorized all necessary measures to protect the Libyan people. 10 days ago, having tried to end the violence without using force, the international community offered Gaddafi a final chance to stop his campaign of killing or face the consequences. Rather than stand down, his forces continued their advance, bearing down on the city of Benghazi, home to nearly 700,000 men, women, and children who sought their freedom from fear. At this point, the United States and the world faced a choice. Gaddafi declared he would show no mercy to his own people. He compared them to rats and threatened to go door to door to inflict punishment. In the past, we had seen him hang civilians in the streets and kill over 1,000 people in a single day. Now we saw regime forces on the outskirts of the city. We knew that if we waited one more day, Benghazi, a city nearly the size of Charlotte, could suffer a massacre that would have reverberated across the region and stained the conscience of the world. It was not in our national interest to let that happen. I refused to let that happen. And so 9 days ago, after consulting the bipartisan leadership of Congress, I authorized military action to stop the killing and enforce UN Security Council Resolution 1973. We struck regime forces approaching Benghazi to save that city and the people within it. We hit Gaddafi's troops in neighboring Ajabia, allowing the opposition to drive them out. We hit Gaddafi's air defenses, which paved the way for a no-fly zone. We targeted tanks and military assets that had been choking off towns and cities, and we cut off much of their source of supply. And tonight, I can report that we have stopped Gaddafi's deadly advance. In this effort, the United States has not acted alone. Instead, we have been joined by a strong and growing coalition. This includes our closest allies, nations like the United Kingdom, France, Canada, Denmark, Norway, Italy, Spain, Greece, and Turkey, all of whom have fought by our sides for decades. And it includes Arab partners like Qatar and the United Arab Emirates, who have chosen to meet their responsibilities to defend the Libyan people. To summarize them, in just 1 month, the United States has worked with our international partners to mobilize a broad coalition, secure an international mandate to protect civilians, stop an advancing army, prevent a massacre, and establish a no-fly zone with our allies and partners. To lend some perspective on how rapidly this military and diplomatic response came together, when people were being brutalized in Bosnia in the 1990s, it took the international community more than a year to intervene with air power to protect civilians. It took us 31 days. Moreover, we've accomplished these objectives consistent with the pledge that I made to the American people at the outset of our military operations. I said that America's role would be limited, and that we would not put ground troops into Libya, that we would focus our unique capabilities on the front end of the operation, and that we would transfer responsibility to our allies and partners. Tonight, we are fulfilling that pledge. Our most effective alliance, NATO, has taken command of the enforcement of the arms embargo and the no-fly zone. Last night, NATO decided to take on the additional responsibility of protecting Libyan civilians. This transfer from the United States to NATO will take place on Wednesday. Going forward, the lead in enforcing the no-fly zone and protecting civilians on the ground will transition to our allies and partners, and I am fully confident that our coalition will keep the pressure on Gaddafi's remaining forces. In that effort, the United States will play a supporting role, including intelligence, logistical support, search and rescue assistance, and capabilities to jam regime communications.
You told the President, you said be prepared because it will be coming to your shores, America, to your door, you said. And your advice to Obama was to remember the words you're making to other nations.
Well, today, our dear brother, has to be very, very careful in this decision that he and his Secretary of State and Sarkozy and Prime Minister Cameron and others are planning. They would love to go into Libya and kill Brother Gaddafi and kill his children, as they did with Saddam Hussein and his sons Qusay and Uday. You must remember, dear people of America, that whenever government wants you to think and act in a certain way that would bring justification to an action that they are already planning to make, they must make the person that they hate a boogeyman. Now, nobody wants civil war. It is the bloodiest of all kinds of wars because you're fighting your own brothers, you're fighting the people of your own language and culture and history. So in every nation, brothers and sisters, there is dissatisfaction. And what the CIA does is go into a country and move among the people that are dissatisfied to stimulate a revolt against a leader that they don't like because they want regime change. I want to be specific. When George W. Bush was president, he said they wanted regime change in Iran, in Korea. Regime change. How do you get regime change, honest America? How do you do that? Congress, the Congress of the United States, voted to spend $150 million to replace the government in Iran that America doesn't like. So they send their agents in to work among the, the dissatisfied. So when they had this election and the people in Iran rose up, they have legitimate grievances, all right, but stimulated from the outside. So President Obama didn't want to put his foot into that cage lest somebody say America inspired it, because it was America's policy to destabilize that government. Well, what about Libya?
Libya.
See, how much money is being spent to arm the so-called rebels? They're dissatisfied. Well, what is their dissatisfaction about? Do they have jobs? Yes. Do they have food? Yes. Has Gaddafi used the oil money to build Libya? Yes. Did Gaddafi use oil money and discover water under the Sahara Desert and brought that water to the surface and brought water from Benghazi all the way to the border almost of Tunisia? Did he impose farming in the desert so that they could feed their own people? Yes. Are there billions of dollars that he's spending building homes, building apartments for his people? Yes. So something is under this. And so when America, England, France, three imperialist powers want to destabilize that country, is it that you're so concerned? Now listen to this hypocrisy, American people. Is it that you're so concerned over the blood that is being shed in Libya when you look the other way when the Israeli Defense Force was bombing the innocent people of Gaza? Unarmed men, women, and children, but our government looked the other way? You looked the other way when the Israeli Defense Force went into Lebanon thinking that they were going to have an easy victory? Then you had to come out with your tail between your legs? Don't tell me and wise black people or white people that you're interested in black suffering. Where were you in Rwanda? Where are you in the Congo? Why did you go to Darfur? Because oil is there. No, you don't want to save the Libyan people. That's your noble motive to hide your wicked agenda. Now, I want to warn you in the name of Allah that this is more complex than what you think. Go into Libya if you want to. The Libyans do not want foreign occupation on their land. And when you make that kind of move, if you're not careful, you'll unite the Libyan people against you. And again, Gaddafi wasn't sitting in any tent twiddling his thumbs over these last 10 years. This man has been investing in African development. This man has been moving throughout Africa. This man has friends all over the world. He may not be your friend, but if you take him out and kill him like he's some rotten fella that wants to kill his own people, what did you do in Waco? Right. What did you do when your people rose up? Did you talk them out of it? No, they had weapons, you bombed them. What did you do in Philadelphia with the movement? Did you talk them out of their home, or did you bomb them? We didn't hear any outcry from you religious hypocrites that love the lives of human beings. You're a liar and a hypocrite. And I warn my brother, don't you let these wicked demons move you in a direction that will absolutely ruin your future with your people in Africa and throughout the world. They don't like the way you handle Mubarak. They don't like the way you're handling the situation in the Arab world. So I would advise you to be careful and move with wisdom and skill. My advice would be, why don't you organize a group of respected Americans and ask for a meeting with Gaddafi? You can't order him to step down and get out. Who the hell do you think you are? That you can talk to a man that built a country over 42 years and ask him step down and get out? Can anybody ask you? Well, there's a lot now going to ask you to step out of the White House because they don't want no black face in the White House. Be careful, brother, how you handle this situation, because it is coming to America. It has already started. Look in Wisconsin. Look in Ohio. Look at what's going on in your country and remember your words, because the American people are rising against their own government. It's not Muslims, it's not black people, it's white militia that are angry with their government, and they are well armed. Are you going to tell them, put your arms down and let's talk it over peacefully? I hope so. But if not, America will be bathed in blood, not because Farrakhan said so, but because the dissatisfaction in America has reached the boiling point. Be careful how you manipulate the dissatisfaction in Libya and other parts of the Muslim world.
The Honorable Minister, Louis Farrakhan.
وثبت أن ما فيه ديمقراطية هناك، بل هناك دكتاتورية لا تختلف أبدا عن دكتاتورية هتلر أو نابليون أو موسوليني أو جنكيز خان أو اسكندر إلى آخر الطغاة. بأمر رئاسي يقال هكذا في عهد ريغن المجنون، يقال بأمر رئاسي أصدر الرئيس الأمريكي ريغن أمر رئاسي بالحرب على ليبيا مثلا، أمر رئاسي بمحاصرة ليبيا، أمر رئاسي بمقاطعة ليبيا، أمر رئاسي بعمل كذا كذا. هل هذه ليست دكتاتورية؟ هذه ديمقراطية؟ الآن انتخابات أمريكية، طلع مواطن أسود أصله من كينيا، افريقي ومسلم، وكان يدرس في مدرسة إسلامية في إندونيسيا، اسمه أوباما، والناس كلهم صفقوا لهذه الشخصية في الوطن العربي وفي العالم الإسلامي وفي أفريقيا، واستبشروا بخير وصفقوا له وصلوا من أجله ودعوا له بالنجاح، وربما يكونوا قد دخلوا حتى في حملات التبرع الشرعية لتمكينه من الفوز في رئاسة أمريكا. لكن فوجئنا بأن أخانا وشقيقنا الأفريقي الكيني الأمريكي الجنسية يطلع بتصريحات صدمت كل مؤيديه في العالم العربي وفي افريقيا وفي العالم الاسلامي. نحن نتمنى وربما تكون هكذا ان هي مجرد زي ما يقولوا في مصر اوكازيون انتخابي. هذه مناسبة انتخابية، ان كذبة انتخابية باش تعرفوا من مهزلة الانتخابات ان الواحد يكذب على الناس لكي يعطوه اصواته، وبعد ياتي التطبيق وينجح يقولون لا هو انت وعدت بكذا بكذا، يقولون لا هذه دعاية انتخابية. شوفوا مهزلة، هذه الديمقراطية. لا هذه دعاية انتخابية، فاكرينها قد فاكرينها مضبوط، نضحك عليكم باخذ اصواتكم. ان شاء الله هي تكون هكذا مجرد دعاية انتخابية. لكن كونك هو يقول ان القدس ساعملها عاصمة الى الابد للاسرائيليين، هذا يدل على انه هو ان اخانا اوباما يجهل السياسة الدولية وما هوش مطلع على ملف الصراع في الشرق الاوسط. كنا نعتقد انه يقول انا قررت اذا نجحت سوف افتش مفاعل ديمونه لاتاكد من القنابل الذريه ومن اسلحه الدمار الشامل الاخرى عند الاسرائيليين، نبغى نتاكد منها ويدير قرار مثل هذا. لكن لابد انه عندما فكر في هذا، لابد انه فكر عندما كان يتكلم عن ايران وبرنامجها النووي، لابد ان تكون امام ديمونه بكل تاكيد. لكن لما تكون قدامه ديمونه لابد ان يكون قدامه مصير سلفه كندي الذي قرر أن يفتش مفاعل ديمونة وأصر على تفتيش ليتأكد من أنه يصنع أسلحة ذرية وإلا لا. ورفض الإسرائيليون، وأخيرا أصر هو على التفتيش. كان المخرج من هذه الأزمة هو استقالة بن غوريون، استقال حتى لا يوافق على تفتيش مفاعل ديمونة، وأعطى الضوء الأخضر بقتل كندي. وهكذا قتل كندي بسبب مفاعل ديمونة وإصراره على تفتيشه. بسبب إصراره على تفتيشه قتل كندي. لابد أن أوباما أمام هذه الصورة، وبالتالي لابد أنه كان يريد أن يتكلم على هذا ولكنه يتراجع. كنا نتوقع منه أن يقول أني سأطبق إذا نجحت فكرة الدولة الواحدة إسراطين الموجودة في الكتاب الأبيض للقذافي، أن هذه الفكرة هي الفكرة اللي فيها الحل الجذري والتاريخي والنهائي، وأنه مستحيل إقامة دولتين قزميتين في هذه المنطقة. أي دولة عمق 15 كيلومتر، ما يسمى بإسرائيل الآن عمق 15 كيلومتر، أي دولة هذه أمام 5 ملايين من الفلسطينيين. كنا نتوقع أن يقول ملايين اللاجئين الفلسطينيين قررت أن أرجعهم لأرض فلسطين التي طردوا منها عام 48 وعام 67. هذا هو التغيير الذي تصفق له الشعوب ويده الشعب الأمريكي والشعب الأسود في أمريكا. كنا نعتقد أن يقول أني أعمل من أجل استقلال الأمة الكردية وتوحيدها، ولا بد أن تحتل في الشرق الأدنى مكانة تحت الشمس وفوق الأرض. الأمة الكردية الممزقة المعذبة المضطهدة المستعمرة من الكل، كان يجب يقف إلى جانبها، لا يقف مع العملاء ويضحي بمصير الأمة الكردية. هذا التغيير. والخوف، كل الخوف هو ان هذه الكلام في وقت تقول ان الاسود يشعر بالنقص، عقدة النقص. هذا شيء خطير. اذا كان اخونا اوباما شعر بانه هو اسود وانه ليس له الحق في ان يحكم امريكا، هذه المصيبة الكبيرة، لان هذا الشعور خطير جدا يجعله يتصرف ابيض اكثر من البيض، ويبالغ في اضطهاد السود واحتقارهم. نحن نقول له يا أخي الأسود والأبيض في أمريكا متساويين، كلهم مهاجرين. أمريكا ليست للبيض ولا للسود، أمريكا الهنود الحمر سكانها الأصليين، جاء الأبيض وجاء الأسود. إذا الأبيض والأسود في أمريكا متساويين، ومن حق أوباما أن يرفع راسه ويقول أنا شريك في أمريكا امريكا ارضي مثل ما ارضكم انتم، اذا كان ما هيش ارضي حتى انتم ليست ارضكم، ارض الهنود الحمر. انتم مهاجرون نحن مهاجرون. لكن ما زلنا احنا نامل ان الاسود هذا يكون معتز بافريقيته وباسلامه وبعقيدته، وانه صاحب حق في امريكا، وان يغير امريكا من الشر الى الخير، وان تقيم العلاقات اللي تخدم امريكا مع الشعوب الاخرى خاصه مع العرب.
Some Libyan civilians had taken up weapons to support Muammar Gaddafi. In Tahuna, even women and children are arming themselves to fight against NATO airstrikes. Nanan has more.
Patriotism drives this 91-year-old woman. She's determined to learn how to assemble a gun. She says she never touched arms before, but has sworn to protect the national sovereignty.
The elders told us of Italy's colonization in Libya. A century ago, the Italians hung many Libyans. I believe we will be the winners. We all support Gaddafi by worship. Libya and Gaddafi will achieve success in the end.
Many Libyans see the NATO airstrikes as the replay of colonization, and they've responded to the government's call to take part in military training to fight for their country.
I'm not afraid. We have suffered persecution by enemies. We are confident of Libya's freedom.
The fever extends to the children. Primary school students assemble in the square each afternoon and sing national songs. Guns have replaced books at the teacher's platform. Students are taught how to use them. Libya's children have been encouraged to join the fight. Nanan, CCTV.
Поки лідер спецслужби йде і в бій йдуть самі жінки, Каддафі довіряє свою безпеку лише панянкам. В очільника лівійської Джмагірії на загал 300-400 дівчат-охоронниць. За офіційною версією, усі незаймані. Відбір проводить особисто полковник Каддафі. Та примха має своє пояснення. В давнину вважали найкращі охоронці або цнотливиці, або лесбійки. Мовляв, вони відчувають небезпеку, так званий відер смерті. Дівчат навіть стерилізували, аби зробити агресивнішими до чоловіків. До цих історій можна ставитись по-різному, але саме дівчата із Калашниковими кілька разів рятували Каддафі. Під час замаху вони прикрили його своїми тілами від автоматних черг та гранат. Одна загинула, 4 були поранені. Тілоохоронниці поруч із Муаммаром Каддафі і вдень, і вночі. Кожна легко може впоратися з кількома сильними чоловіками. За деякими даними, більшість дівчат.
More speculation has been raised on the reasons for NATO's intervention in Libya. And as RT's Laura Emmett reports, the organization may have been trying to prevent Gaddafi from burying the American buck.
According to some, it's about protecting civilians.
We must not tolerate this regime using military force against its own people.
Others say it's about oil.
The only reason they're interested with Libya is about the oil. You'd think we'd be in Iraq if the major export there was broccoli.
But some are convinced intervention in Libya is all about currency, specifically Gaddafi's plan to introduce the gold dinar, a single African currency made from gold, a true sharing of the wealth.
It's one of these things that you have to plan almost in secret, because as soon as you say you're going to change over from the dollar to something else, you're going to be targeted. There were 2 conferences on this. one in 96 and another one in the year 2000, called the World Mataba Conference, organized by Gaddafi. And everybody was interested. I think most countries in Africa were keen.
Gaddafi didn't give up. In the months leading up to the military intervention, he called on African and Muslim nations to join together to create this new currency that would rival the dollar and euro. They would sell oil and other resources around the world only for gold dinars. It's an idea that would shift the economic balance of the world. Countries' wealth would depend on how much gold they have, not how many dollars they trade. And Libya has 144 tons of gold. The UK has double that, but 10 times the population.
If Gaddafi had an intent to try to reprice his oil or whatever else the country was selling in the global markets and accept something else as a currency, or maybe launch a gold dinar currency, any move such as that would certainly not be welcomed by the power elite today who are responsible for controlling the world's central banks. So yes, that would certainly be something that would cause his immediate dismissal and the need for other reasons to be brought forth for removing him from power.
It's happened before. In 2000, Saddam Hussein announced Iraqi oil would be traded in euros, not dollars. Sanctions and an invasion followed. Some say because the Americans were desperate to prevent OPEC from transferring oil trading in all its member countries to the euro.
The UK's gold is kept here in a secure vault somewhere in the depths of the Bank of England. As in most developed countries, there's not enough to go around. But that's not the case in places like Libya and many of the Gulf states. A gold dinar would have given oil-rich African and Middle Eastern countries the power to turn around to their energy-hungry customers and say, sorry, the price has gone up and we want gold. Some say the US and its NATO allies literally couldn't afford to let that happen. Laura Emmett, RT, London.
It was Colonel Gaddafi's first interview for Western journalists since this crisis started. He agreed to see the BBC, ABC News from the United States and the Sunday Times. He was fairly relaxed throughout the interview, which was held in a restaurant overlooking Tripoli port. He said the UN sanctions resolution against Libya was illegitimate. And then he was asked if he'd ever leave the country. As if anyone would leave their homeland, he said.
But Mr. Gaddafi, you are known as the leader here, and you've been the leader for many, many years. And there are plenty of people in this country who would say that the biggest obstacle to change for them and for Libya is you.
He said his presence actually instigated change for the people. Mr. Gaddafi has no official title as leader or president.
In recent years, you've had a rapprochement with Western countries. You've had important Western leaders like Tony Blair coming here. But now there are Western leaders who are queuing up to say that you should go. Do you feel a sense of betrayal about that?
Of course it's betrayal, he said. They have no morals. Besides, if they want me to step down, what do I step down from? I'm not a monarch or a king.
But you make speeches at the UN and you're identified very much with Libya, even if you don't have a formal title.
It's honorary, he said. It's nothing to do with exercising power or authority. In Britain, who has the power? Is it Queen Elizabeth or David Cameron? Mr. Gaddafi said, we didn't understand the Libyan system.
No, I understand the system that you have here. But internationally, you're regarded as the leader.
You don't understand the system here. No. Don't say I understand. You don't understand. And the world don't understand the system here. The biblical system here. The authority of the people. You don't understand it.
But how do the people show their authority then? Because some who've gone out onto the streets to protest say that your people have shot at them.
No demonstration at all in the streets. Did you see demonstrations?
Yes, I have, yes.
Where?
I saw some today. I saw some in Zawiya. Yesterday I saw demonstrations.
Are they supporting us?
No, they're not supporting
us.
They
are not against us.
Some were against you and some were for you.
No one against us. Against me for what? Because I am not president. They love me, all my people with me. They love me all.
But if they do love
they will die to protect me, my people.
If
Some
you say they do love you, then why are they capturing Benghazi and they say they're against you there? Why are they in...
It is a Qaeda, it is a Qaeda, it is Qaeda, not my people, it is Qaeda. Qaeda, yes. They came from outside.
So they're the people pulling down the posters and putting up the flag of the king? It's Al-Qaeda, he said. They went into military bases and seized arms, and they're terrorizing the people. The people who had the weapons were youngsters. They're starting to lay down their weapons now as the drugs Al-Qaeda gave them wear off. And off he went, always called the leader by Libyans, but he says he can't resign, as he has no official position. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, Tripoli.
What do you think the reason is why the USG is going in?
No comment.
Come on.
No.
Come on, you can say.
No, I don't want to say. Well, the Libyan central bank, for one, is one of the few. You on the spot. Yeah, is one of the few 100% state-owned central banks. So they're
Muammar owns the bank.
That's right. Yeah, yep. The people, the Republic of Libya, owns the central bank for one, and I hear they have some natural resources over there.
No, I maybe a little bit. Yeah, I don't.
Sand, perhaps.
Sand,
I'm not sure.
Sand is big. Silica is good.
Could be. They need to make a lot of silica, and where else are you going to get sand?
You know the thought I had. Would you bear with me for a second?
Okay.
It's a year and a half from now, and the United States government says we're just going to have to cut. We're going to have to cut Social Security by 25% and raise the age to 70 and this and that because we just spend $1 trillion on war and we just don't have enough money. And so a couple million people decide to march on Washington, a peaceful demonstration, and then some of the military start firing on the people in Washington because they do. If that would happen, it could. And then all of a sudden Russia comes in to support the people that have gone to the demonstration in Washington.
It's a dangerous precedent.
How do you think we would feel?
Right.
How do you think we would feel? Would that be legal?
Well,
would that be lawful?
It depends who wins.
Would that be reasonable? I mean, is it any different from what I just said?
I don't think so. Yeah, in fact, I'm not a big person on this type of activity. So
what kind of activity?
Sticking our nose in other people's business. I know Ben Franklin, the very first coin that he proposed was a cent. And on one side, it had the 13 colonies united in rings, and on the other, it had a sundial and the motto, what he proposed, mind your business.
Really?
Yes.
Ben did.
Yeah.
Good old Ben.
Yeah. So I'm big on that mind your business thing.
And isn't there a quote that you see from time to time, Andrew, with George Washington talking about the
foreign entanglements.
Foreign entanglements and the affairs of Europe, and he called, what did he say, something to the effect, do you know the quote?
Yeah, we should avoid foreign entanglements from his second, sort of like the Eisenhower, watch out for the military-industrial complex. In Washington's day, that's when the French had their little thing, firing on their own people.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and Jefferson said, hey, we got to get over there and help the French people. And that's when Washington really took the hardline position that surprised everyone, because obviously the French had given us a great hand during the war, but it didn't surprise when you consider that he was holding back from supporting those in power. It's a very odd situation, U.S. foreign policy. You'd have to really study it closely to try to get an angle on what we're doing, but it appears to be that, westward expansion, manifest destiny, we are destined to rule the world type of an attitude. I don't know where it came from, but it's been around for quite a while.
Well, of course, it's been spun, and it has been since, we've been doing these things as, maybe the last 30 or 40 years of installing democracies around the world.
Right, and then leaving the strings attached so that, we can jerk them around whenever we need to.
And so far, it seems like these revolutions are doing no more than dividing these countries in Bahrain and now probably Tripoli is going to end up being divided, and Where's the other one? Oh, in North Africa. They get all divided up, and then you have these civil wars, and boy, what a mess.
Yeah, and into the vacuum comes the strong hand of power that,
they choose a side.
Right, the glue. Yeah, pick a side, coalesce around it, and then fund it, take over, and voila, you've now got another country under your belt or within your sphere of influence. And I think that's what it really is. They want it's not a we anymore, right?
No.
Money wants to be able to call places and get things done. And the way that is done is by having your people there. So if you study the history of the old merchant bankers, everyone likes to talk about the House of Rothschild. You see how they got things done. The office in London called the office in Paris, right? He sent the carrier pigeon, and that's how they got things done. So this influence, the idea that you have influence in foreign capitals, I mean, really, I think has been a way of
Today,
diplomacy.
I'll give you the reason why the West is fighting Gaddafi. I'll tell you exactly what is really going on in Libya. I will tell you what the mainstream media will not tell you. There are 3 reasons why Gaddafi has to die. And among those 3 reasons, none of them have to do with him killing his own people. Number 1, Gaddafi is the one who gave the opportunity for an African satellite for communication. It is in 1992 that 45 countries in Africa decided that they want to have their own satellite. This will cover internet, telephone communication, and all other communications. But the problem was how to find the money for this project. Where did they get the money from? They decided to go to the IMF. But the IMF knew that sponsoring this will be more dangerous for Western countries. Why? Because Western countries were making $500 million per year for all telecommunication in Africa, even inside Africa. $500 million per year. Not includes interest. That's how much they were making. So it is in 2007 that Gaddafi will come up with most of the money for this project. Africa will now have its first communication satellite, which will give the opportunity to countries like South Africa, Nigeria, Algeria, Angola, Libya, and other countries to now have their own telecommunication satellites. They will now provide communication to their own people. It will only cost African countries $400 million, only a one payment of $400 million to make this happen. Now you imagine how much money does Europe lost because of this? $500 million per year that Gaddafi made them lose by sponsoring this satellite. Just Gaddafi himself comes up with $300 million. And other countries can impeach them. So this is reason number 1 why they need Gaddafi dead. 2, Gaddafi and African countries decide to create 3 major banks in Africa. 1, the AMF, African Monetary Fund. The African Monetary Fund will headquarter in Cameroon, Yaoundé. This was to be created in 2011, this year. With the African Monetary Fund, African countries will no longer need to go to the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund. So just imagine yourself how much money Europe will lose if the AMF is created. When Western countries found that this is what was happening, they actually wanted to be part of it. I believe it is in 2006 in Yaoundé, Cameroon, that African countries decided that no other countries outside of Africa will be part of the AMF. Now you can imagine what's going on here. Not only that they're trying to cut them money, but on top of that, they don't even want them to be part of this. Because being part of this will mean that they will have to control what is going on. The second bank will be the Central African Bank. The Central African Bank will be headquartered in Abuja in Nigeria. What this bank will do, it will stop African countries from using Western currency. Like if you go to Africa today, countries like Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Gabon, and many other French-speaking countries are using the franc CFA. With this bank, we will have our own currency, like the Naira in Nigeria. Gaddafi, once again, came up with most of the money for this project. And the third bank that was supposed to be created was going to headquarter in Libya, the Bank of Investment. This bank will control most of investment in Africa. The Central Bank of Investment. Now you imagine yourself what's going on here. Gaddafi is trying to break Western economy by doing this. But that's not his intention. His intention is to free Africa from his trap. African people want to be independent. Western countries don't want that. And that's what's going on here. So the money that Obama confiscated, stole from Gaddafi is the money that was going to help for all those projects. He's telling you today that Gaddafi is trying to kill his own people with that money. No, Mr. President, you know that that's not true. He probably doesn't even know because he has no experience. He has no experience. He doesn't even know what's going on. He's like a puppy. They tell him what to do. Oh, well, let me inform you, Mr. President, that money was going to sponsor all those projects. That money that you confiscated from Libya. The third reason why Gaddafi has to die has to do with the United States of Africa. This man has been pushing African countries to unite, just like the United States of America. The very first thing that European countries, when they were colonizing African countries, did was to divide African people. When you want to break a powerful home, you have to find a way to turn that family against each other. That's the very first thing Western countries did to keep us from being powerful. The second thing they did was to stop education. Make sure that African people are not educated. Education is the key to success. By us being educated and educating our own people, we are stopping major problems in Africa. And the third thing they did was to place dictators in power in Africa who will give them everything they want. And every time that the population will stand up, these dictators will have the support of European countries to kill those protesters. They were all surprised with what happened in Tunisia, in Egypt, and they took the opportunity to then create a problem in Libya. Not one of you will show me footage of the same uprising that we saw in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Libya. Not one of you will show me that type of footage. This was created by Western countries. When you go to Libya, you get free education. I'm talking about college education, free healthcare. When you are newlywed and you don't yet have a job, you get free apartments. Libya is a beautiful country. And today they're telling us that Gaddafi is killing his own people. But yet he's the same one who is giving them everything. Free education, free healthcare, feeding his own people, and killing them again. Does that make sense to you? Let me tell you what the countries that are bombing Libya today have in common. They are broke. Oh yes, they are broke. Just the United States alone is borrowing money from China. Europe is going down with the euro. Every one of those countries in NATO are broke. And Gaddafi is making it worse by giving African people independence. And that's why you see Hillary Clinton going to Africa and telling African people to reject Gaddafi. Don't deal with Gaddafi. In fact, they've requested that the rebels open an embassy in Washington, D.C., making an illegal movement legal. That's what the Obama administration is doing. Hillary Clinton is also asking African people not to deal with China. Tell me, let me just ask this, man. What can China do to African countries that Western countries haven't done yet? I like to know myself. How worse can it be? Far as I'm concerned, China is not the one going around bombing other countries. I can't remember the last war China has been in. China is not the one going killing African people today with drones. China is not the one fighting in Iraq or Afghanistan in the name of democracy. China is making money. Why not deal with China? What have you done to African people that is good? What have you given African people that is good? When you are going somewhere in Africa, in different African countries, and asking African people not to deal with China, what are we receiving in exchange of that? Other than bombs, drones, and everything else. What are we receiving? China is the #1 investors in Africa. The African satellite that I'm talking about today was put together by Chinese and Russians. We African people will survive. We've survived your drones and your bombing, your insult, and everything else, your humiliations. We've survived that. China is not going to do anything to us that you haven't done yet. So, Mr. President, let me tell you this. If you're not ashamed, I'm ashamed for you. I'm embarrassed for you. The first African-American president. And this is what you're doing to your own country, to the world, to the people of your race. You are the nightmare of Martin Luther King. He's always talked about his dream. But his nightmare was to see an African president of the United States of America doing what you are doing today, misrepresenting the black race. We're not asking you to give your attention only on African people or only on black people, but to show a good example of what leading is, of what fairness is, of what democracy is really about. The things that Martin Luther King died for. Not just for the liberation of African people, but for fair treatment of everybody. Blacks and white equal. Fighting together. Sharing. This is an embarrassment. And this is a shame. And I hope you stay a one-term president.
Now, once more, Muammar Gaddafi has a choice. The resolution that passed lays out very clear conditions that must be met. The United States, the United Kingdom, France, and Arab states agree that a ceasefire must be implemented immediately. That means all attacks against civilians must stop. Gaddafi must stop his troops from advancing on Benghazi, pull them back from Ajubia, Misrata, and Zawiya, and establish water, electricity, and gas supplies to all areas. Humanitarian assistance must be allowed to reach the people of Libya. Let me be clear. These terms are not negotiable. These terms are not subject to negotiation. If Gaddafi does not comply with the resolution, the international community will impose consequences, and the resolution will be enforced through military action. In this effort, the United States is prepared to act as part of an international coalition. American leadership is essential, but that does not mean acting alone. It means shaping the conditions for the international community to act together.
أهلا بكم مشاهدينا الكرام. استقبل القائد معمر القذافي بعد ظهر اليوم الدكتور محمد أحمد الشريف.
Obama is still delusional. He believes the lies that his own government is spreading around the world and his own media is spreading around the world. They have not proved one single charge against us, and they refuse to investigate us. It's not Obama who decides whether Muammar Gaddafi leaves Libya or not. It's the Libyan people who decide their future. We are not prepared to suffer for years and years and lose thousands of people in a civil war or tribal war just so that we might in 10 years or 15 years' time have some sort of parliamentary system. This is too much to pay. We want the leader to lead us forward with the Libyan tribes, the Libyan citizens, so we can have a peaceful, gradual, from within transition. 3 factors we would like the world to remember.
You are not going to win. You have no chance, 0 chance to win the war here. If you are angry with us because we are not buying the Rafale airplanes, you should talk with us. If you are angry with us because oil deals are not going well, you should talk to us. Rebels will not give you anything because they're not going to win. You want democracy, we are ready. You want election, we are ready. You want, what? New constitution, we are ready. Ceasefire, we are ready. But the other side is refusing all the time. But to tell my father to leave the country, it's a joke. We will never surrender. We will fight. We have to fight for our country. And you're going to be a legitimate target for us.
Your father's lost control of Benghazi. He must be disappointed. He must feel that this is a big blow.
Listen, in Benghazi there is 1.5 million people, and they are talking to us and calling us. People there are afraid of the militia on the ground, because they're militia, armed militia.
But do you think he will ever get back the parts of Libya that he has lost?
It's not. Libya, Benghazi is part of Libya.
But do you think your father will get those bits back?
Excuse me, Benghazi is part of Libya. The people of Benghazi are our brothers. we have no chance to live in a separate world. We live together, we die together. We are brothers, we are one family and one country.
It's not the fear inside and outside Libya that you may be on the brink of a civil war if there is no central control?
Not anymore. Not anymore, because the Libyan people, they woke up and now they realize the danger around them. So now we are more united, we are more optimistic, and we are much stronger.
And what spirits is your father in?
Very good.
The rebels say they have detained 3 of Gaddafi's sons. We've been telling you about that. One of them could end up in the Netherlands. Today, the International Criminal Court is working to bring Saif al-Islam to The Hague. He could be tried for crimes against humanity. Rebels say they've detained another Gaddafi son, Mohammed, at his home. Al Jazeera television reports one of its anchors was on the phone with Mohammed when rebels exchanged gunfire with guards. Listen to this clip from that phone call.
I'm standing outside my house. I'm being attacked right now. There's gunfire inside my house. They're inside my house. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
Al Jazeera later reported that Mohammed Gaddafi and his family were not harmed, but their movements were under the control of rebel forces.
We want to show now, because with Muammar Gaddafi's belief his son was there, Mu'tasim Gaddafi, and we want to tell you that Libyan government television is showing a photograph of him dead. Again, this is according to Libyan television, and that is a picture of Mu'tasim Gaddafi dead. That's what they're saying, Muammar Gaddafi's son. CNN's Wolf Blitzer in Washington now. Wolf, you heard what lies ahead with all of this. Muammar Gaddafi dead, one of his sons, and then there are reports, not confirmed by CNN, that Saif al-Islam, the son who had taken over for his father, is now dead as well.
Yeah, perhaps the best known of all the sons, Saif al-Islam El Arabiya, the Arabic satellite channel reporting that Saif al-Islam also dead. We have not confirmed that, but there you saw the picture of Mu'tasim Gaddafi, the other son, dead, a picture shown on Libyan state television.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today, the government of Libya announced the death of Muammar Gaddafi. This marks the end of a long and painful chapter for the people of Libya, who now have the opportunity to determine their own destiny in a new and democratic Libya. For 4 decades, the Gaddafi regime ruled the Libyan people with an iron fist. Basic human rights were denied. Innocent civilians were detained, beaten, and killed, and Libya's wealth was squandered. The enormous potential of the Libyan people was held back, and terror was used as a political weapon. Today, we can definitively say that the Gaddafi regime has come to an end. The last major regime strongholds have fallen. The new government is consolidating the control over the country, and one of the world's longest-serving dictators is no more. 1 year ago, the notion of a free Libya seemed impossible. But then the Libyan people rose up and demanded their rights. And when Gaddafi and his forces started going city to city, town by town, to brutalize men, women, and children, the world refused to stand idly by. faced with the potential of mass atrocities and a call for help from the Libyan people, the United States and our friends and allies stopped Gaddafi's forces in their tracks. A coalition that included the United States, NATO, and Arab nations persevered through the summer to protect Libyan civilians. And meanwhile, the courageous Libyan people fought for their own future and broke the back of the regime. So this is a momentous day in the history of Libya. The dark shadow of tyranny has been lifted, and with this enormous promise, the Libyan people now have a great responsibility to build an inclusive and tolerant and democratic Libya that stands as the ultimate rebuke to Gaddafi's dictatorship. We look forward to the announcement of the country's liberation, the quick formation of an interim government, and a stable transition to Libya's first free and fair elections. And we call on our Libyan friends to continue to work with the international community to secure dangerous materials and to respect the human rights of all Libyans, including those who've been detained. We're under no illusions. Libya will travel a long and winding road to full democracy. There will be difficult days ahead. But the United States, together with the international community, is committed to the Libyan people. You have won your revolution. And now we will be a partner as you forge a future that provides dignity, freedom, and opportunity. For the region, today's events prove once more that the rule of an iron fist inevitably comes to an end. Across the Arab world, citizens have stood up to claim their rights. Youth are delivering a powerful rebuke to dictatorship. And those leaders who try to deny their human dignity will not succeed. For us here in the United States, we are reminded today of all those Americans that we lost at the hands of Gaddafi's terror. Their families and friends are in our thoughts and in our prayers. We recall their bright smiles, their extraordinary lives, and their tragic deaths. We know that nothing can close the wound of their loss, but we stand together as one nation by their side. For nearly 8 months, many Americans have provided extraordinary service in support of our efforts to protect the Libyan people and to provide them with a chance to determine their own destiny. Our skilled diplomats have helped to lead an unprecedented global response. Our brave pilots have flown in Libya's skies. Our sailors have provided support off Libya's shores, and our leadership at NATO has helped guide our coalition. Without putting a single U.S. service member on the ground, we achieved our objectives, and our NATO mission will soon come to an end. This comes at a time when we see the strength of American leadership across the world. We've taken out al-Qaeda leaders, and we've put them on the path to defeat. We're winding down the war in Iraq and have begun a transition in Afghanistan. And now, working in Libya with friends and allies, we've demonstrated what collective action can achieve in the 21st century. Of course, above all, today's belongs to the people of Libya. This is a moment for them to remember all those who suffered and were lost under Gaddafi and look forward to the promise of a new day. And I know the American people wish the people of Libya the very best in what will be a challenging but hopeful days, weeks, months, and years ahead. Thank you very much.
Doctrine of leading